All right, you guys, happy Wednesday, but a little bit of terrible news because I just realized that we only have 10 episodes left of the podcast before I go on maternity leave. And I'm sad about that. I'm also somewhat concerned because who's going to look after my cousin, Justin Baldoni, while I'm away? I'm concerned about that. Speaking of my cousin, a couple of updates which we will run through today. The actor from It Ends With Us, who was name checked in Blake's CRD filing, the initial one, for having imparted the trauma of her birthing scene, well, he has just spoken out. It's good for Justin, of course. Also, Harvey Weinstein speaks. He is thanking me and Joe Rogan for speaking about his case. And he also shouted out Justin Baldoni. My cousin's bravery is leading the way, and Harvey has some regrets. I'll tell you what he said. Lastly, House and Habits. Jessica Reed is back at it. She's claiming that me and Ian Carroll are going after her, and I'm a little tired of her gaslighting and lying to the people that subscribe to her. So I'm just going to allow myself to fully call her out for who she represents herself to be on Instagram versus who she is in public and in private. So let's get started. Welcome back to Candid. All right, let's just start with an open threat. Anyone that comes for Justin Baldoni while I'm on maternity leave, anybody who picks on my cousin is going to pay for it dearly when I return, okay? He is off limits, so do not do it. Now that I've gotten that off my chest, we do have a couple of updates that are working its way in his favor in the courtroom. It starts with the infamous traumatizing birth scene, or at least it was traumatizing for Blake when she was just kind of, saying whatever, just writing, I don't know, fantasy series in her CRD complaint to make it seem like she was harassed on set. And it's hard to do that. It's really hard to just make up stuff like that. I want to first remind you what Blake claimed in that initial filing, because I feel like with the passage of time, we sometimes forget how utterly over the top and dramatic and dishonest she was in her descriptions about absolutely everything. So in the initial CRD complaint that was filed in California, sections 35 through 37, she claimed this, okay, quote, "On the day of shooting the scene in which Miss Lively's character gives birth, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath suddenly pressured Miss Lively to simulate full nudity, despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, her contract, or in previous creative discussions. Mr. Baldoni insisted to Ms. Lively that women give birth naked and that his wife had ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Ms. Lively disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. When the birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and utterly lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes, such as choreographing the scene with an intimacy coordinator, having a signed nudity writer, or simply turning off the monitors so that the scene was not broadcast to all the crew on set and on their personal phones and iPad. Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Ms. Lively was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia. Among the non-essential persons present that day was Wayfarer co-chairman Mr. Sorowitz, who flew in for one of his few set visits. Ms. Lively was not provided with anything to cover herself with in between takes until after she had made multiple requests. Ms. Lively became even more alarmed when Mr. Baldoni introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. Ms. Lively felt that the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friend for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia for a birth scene, was invasive and humiliating. Lastly, to add insult to injury, Mr. Heath approached Ms. Lively and her assistant on set and started playing a video of a fully nude woman with her legs spread apart. Ms. Lively thought he was showing her pornography and stopped him. Mr. Heath explained the video was his wife giving birth. Ms. Lively was alarmed and asked Mr. Heath if his wife knew he was sharing the video, to which he replied, "She isn't weird about this stuff," as if Ms. Lively was weird for not welcoming it. Ms. Lively and her assistant excused themselves, stunned that Mr. Heath had shown them a nude video. Wow. You forget how dramatic it was, terrifying it was. Nudity, she inviting people, open set, crews walking by. She's naked. She's in stirrups. feel like I'm being tossed back to the 1920s here. It's terrible. The whole thing's terrible when you read it like that. And the one thing I really do love about Blake Lively is that she does not allow facts to get in the way of a good time. Like, she was having fun when she collaborated with the New York Times and her lawyers on this piece and this kind of dramatic retelling. Because then when we were totally taken out of her fantasy, when Brian Friedman introduced the facts, things got a little different. Things changed very quickly. And the really unfortunate part about his facts that he presented is that we don't get to use Ryan Reynolds' wild imagination because there's apparently footage, high quality film footage. Because remember that part where they were shooting a movie, folks? Yeah, they have all the footage of what actually went down. And so Brian fired back and clarified that one, Steve Sarowitz was absolutely not present when the birthing scene was filmed. Also, Blake Lively was never even naked. And they debunked that beginning at paragraph 83 in their amended complaint when they wrote back, Blake Lively's demand, as written, suggests nude or intimate scenes were filmed with non-essential personnel present. Later in her complaint, Lively alleges that during a scene, the birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia, and that there were non-essential persons present. This allegation is knowingly false. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from below the chest down is dishonest. Lively was wearing black briefs and a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. Her legal complaint deliberately suggests that she was wearing a small piece of nude fabric glued around her genitalia by stating this is generally what female actors use to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, leaving the reader to believe that Lively was only wearing this small fabric. Lively was aware of this birthing scene as she was heavily involved in rewriting the script and gave creative input for this specific scene, even against the director's creative vision. Moreover, film footage clearly demonstrates that the set was not chaotic, as she alleges, and only essential individuals, for example, film crew and talent, were present for the scene and doing their jobs. Importantly, Lively knowingly and falsely alleges that the film's financier was present during these scenes and insinuates that he was watching her nude, which he had no desire to do. He was not even on set during the filming of that scene. He arrived later, merely stopping by for a brief moment amid his busy business schedule, and was present during the filming in which Lively's character spoke with a female OBGYN doctor, a scene in which she was fully clothed. By the way, I'm regarding Justin hiring one of his random friends to play the role of OBGYN, that allegation, so that he could, I don't know, cop perverted look. Oh, come on, buddy, come over. It's Blake Lively. She's nude. It turns out that the friend she's referring to was Adam Monsheen, and he's not such a rando after all. And now he's the one that's speaking out. Here is Adam Monsheen. And check out this headline in the Daily Mail. Blake Lively hit with shock twist as co-star turns against her in battle against Justin Baldoni. Turns out that Adam Monsheen, who played Dr. Dunbar in the movie, is actually an award-winning Shakespearean trained actor with an MFA. That's a Master of Fine Arts in acting from UCLA. Oh, totally a random guy. And in addition to appearing on numerous hit television shows, he's toured nationally with a Tony Award-winning acting company, plus attended Oxford's acting program, regarding which he was on a full scholarship. So, and additionally, he was also a local actor. So Adam has come out and issued this statement regarding Blake's claims. He says, quote, I am not going to speculate as to Ms. Lively's motivations for mentioning me in the complaint. Needless to say, my experience working with her is very different than the one that she described in her lawsuit. Indeed, I was surprised to read her description of the scene. Her costume included a full hospital gown, black shorts, and torso-covering prosthetics to make her appear pregnant, in addition to whatever personal garments that she chose, end quote. He also says that Blake, quote, never complained or expressed discomfort at any point because nothing unusual or improper occurred. It was entirely professional. Lastly, I was, in fact, a local hire. My wife and I are from New York and spend significant time there. As such, I, like any actor accepting that contract, was required to cover my own travel and living expenses in connection with the job, end quote. And he had this to say regarding the upcoming trial. He's very much willing to share the truth under oath, telling the press, quote, if I'm called to testify in the case, I will answer truthfully and more freely. Whatever is asked of me with all the legal protection that affords. Yeah, I would say it's time for someone to check in on Megan Twohey of the New York Times. And someone actually did. It's TMZ. Her hashtag #MeTooGames seem to be coming to an end. It's really gross. I'm happy that this movement is coming to an end and that men are beginning to stand up for themselves. And even better, by the way, that women are beginning to stand up for men who are being harmed by what I perceive to be utter witchcraft in the press. It really is just a bunch of witches coming together and saying we can just take down this person as a sport because we have the sympathy of people around the world, women who actually lived through sexual harassment and sexual assault and these experiences will just instantly believe us, even though what we are is we're just empowered and we're A-list and we can do whatever we want. It's basically it's like a female gang, a female hit squad, right? Speaking of which, Harvey Weinstein is inspired by Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni taking on the New York Times, and perhaps actually he's explicitly saying that he regrets that he didn't pursue that same legal route. Well, it was a different time, obviously, when stuff happened with Harvey Weinstein. He was the ground zero of the Me Too movement. But I want you to check out this headline that's coming from TMZ. It says Harvey Weinstein Harvey Weinstein is saying that he feels for Baldoni because the New York Times did the same thing to him. They cherry-picked info to fit their narrative. And it was, in fact, Megan Twohey. He told a reporter that watching Justin Baldoni take legal action against the New York Times and its reporters, accusing them of manipulating communications and ignoring evidence that countered Miss Lively's claims, hit me hard. It brought back everything I experienced when the Times reported on me in 2017. They did the same thing, cherry-picked what fit their story and ignored critical context and facts that could have challenged the narrative. I should have stood up and fought back then. I should have had the courage to speak out against the way the truth was twisted. That failure still haunts me. I'll be watching this case closely. It matters to anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of a media takedown, and even more to someone who's had to pay a high legal price. End quote. TMZ then reached out to the director of communications over at the New York Times and also to Megan Twohey herself. So far, Megan Twohey is zipping it. For once, she's just going silent, as she should, because she's a hideous person who should have her Pulitzer Prize revoked because she earned a Pulitzer by lying. And I want to be very clear, again, as I am every time I discuss the Harvey Weinstein case, it is not like Justin Baldoni. Harvey Weinstein definitively abused his power and he cheated on his wife. And so he is an immoral man, but he is also sitting in prison for something that I believe he did not do. I believe he had consensual sexual relations, and then the New York Times, along with some other hit journalists from other publications, decided to cook up the Me Too movement and ignored what I view to be exculpatory evidence, which are the emails, the long-term relationships that he had with these women calling him love and dear and introducing him to their mother. I mean, it's that the Jessica Mann thing is just so crazy to me that she would introduce him to her mother, something so intimate and under no pressure to travel the world on his dime. And we have to draw a line in the sand on the difference between what a sugar baby is and what a victim is, okay? Because sugar babies are real. They find rich men, they find rich benefactors, and they want them to bankroll their lives, and they want them to get them into certain industries and to help them. And then there are people who are real victims of assault, who are asking for nothing, who were not there because they were looking for a trade up in life or looking for connections or because they wanted to meet a certain producer or a certain director. They're not emailing people who have done horrific things to them, you know? And I'm just happy that we're able to foster that conversation. And I like that we have two different examples of men, one being Justin Baldoni, who is just so innocent, and one being Harvey, who definitely bears some blame because he wouldn't have been in that circumstance if he was not cheating on his wife, but who both share something that's really critical in common, which is that the media put a hit on them and were able to persuade the masses absent the facts, which could have transformed things for him. So Harvey's new trial is coming up. Obviously, we have been on that. He recently, at his hearing yesterday, thanked me and Joe Rogan for amplifying support as his health is deteriorating. Harvey has leukemia. He could potentially die in prison, which is totally crazy. And fortunately, that initial verdict was overturned by the appellate court. So he has a new hearing coming up on April 15th. And he had this to say at his at his before the judge the other day. He said, "quote I want to take a moment to sincerely thank Candace Owens for believing in me and helping me reach millions of new supporters, and to Joe Rogan for amplifying that support even further. I'm going through a tough time right now. My health is not in a good place, and the road ahead looks challenging. But the outpouring of encouragement has truly lifted my spirits. I'm holding on to that hope, and I believe it's going to help carry me through." It would just be insane if he died in prison for something that I don't believe he did. I mean, like, it would just be crazy. And that's what I think we have to tether ourselves to, that understanding that what happened here with Harvey Weinstein, like, it was criminal. It could have been that way for Justin Baldoni. It was civil, but what if she decided to make it criminal? What if it was a different time? What if it was the land of Me Too a few years ago? Could have made all the difference if people weren't more awake to the media manipulations. It's very scary to think that there could be people that are put in prison for things that they didn't objectively do. And hopefully, with this entire series and everything that we've done with Harvey Speaks and us covering the Justin Baldoni thing, we are starting to give a voice to different sorts of cases that have that should be reviewed. Just plain and simple, should be reviewed. And we will jump back into the Harvey series, Jessica Mann's emails, and the insane LA case that they got him on. That one is even crazier than the two in New York. It's unbelievable. The court system is just unbelievable when it wants to deliver social justice and not real justice. And social justice is not real justice.